Hi everyone, welcome to Matt's Stead Ukulele, and I'm so excited to share the start of a brand new course. Welcome to Everything Baritone Ukulele. This is going to be a comprehensive course for everything related to baritone ukulele. We're going to go right from the basics in terms of the tuning and how to hold everything, and that's really important. Even if you've played baritone ukulele before, getting those little things right is super important. We're then going to go through all sorts of playing styles. We're going to look at strumming and fingerstyle and chord melody, and we're going to get into a lot of detail into some advanced techniques later on. I'm going to both go into a lot of detail to explain everything in simple terms for people whose baritone ukulele might be their first ukulele experience, but I'm also going to show you all sorts of tips and techniques to help you if you've come from, say, playing a soprano concert or tenor ukulele. A lot of crossover skills that we can utilise to your benefit. Now, as I say, getting those basics right is super important. When I did my beginner's course for soprano, concert and tenor, it was really important to me that we looked at things like how to hold the ukulele in terms of angles, the picking angle for your picking hand and your strumming technique. These things are really important and something we need to get right from the start. So in today's video, we're going to go through the very basics of how to hold your baritone ukulele to get the best out of it, how easy it is to strum your baritone ukulele, and we're also going to take a look at the tuning of the baritone ukulele, and that's where I would like to start. So you probably already know that baritone ukulele is kind of the odd one out in the ukulele family. Whereas most ukuleles are tuned G, C, E, A, a baritone ukulele is tuned D, G, B, E. That means it's a whole fourth lower than most ukuleles. What do I mean by a fourth? Well, this second string down from the top is a G string on the baritone. On a tenor or a concert or a soprano ukulele, that's a C string. And if we count up from G, G, A, B, C, the other ukuleles, soprano, tenor and concert, are a fourth higher than the baritone. So we can think of this as a fourth below. That gives it a really lovely, deep, rich tone, and we're going to explore how to get the best out of that during the course. Now, your baritone can be tuned three main ways within that. The most traditional baritone tuning is low D, G, B to E. D, G, B, E. So you can think of that as like a low G ukulele, with the lowest note being the one nearest your nose and the highest note being the one nearest your toes. And the benefit of this tuning with a low D on your baritone, which is the traditional baritone tuning, is it gives a lovely, gorgeous, deep, rich tone, which is super nice. Because that low D is the traditional baritone ukulele tuning, most popular through the ages, you'll find that if you order yourself a set of general baritone ukulele strings with no other details, you will probably find that you will get this version. And you will probably also find that the top two strings are most likely to be wound strings. That means they have a nylon or some kind of monofilament core, and then they have some kind of metallic material wrapped around the outside. The reason they do that is it allows to keep the string width nice and thin whilst producing a lovely tone. If you prefer, you can buy a low D set with unwound strings, but they are quite floppy, so you can have intonation problems if you're not super careful with those. Another way of tuning your baritone ukulele is actually to replace that low D string with a high D. And that's a bit like playing a re-entrant high G tenor or concert or soprano ukulele, only you're still tuned a fourth below. So that's going to give it a slightly brighter tone like we have here. The reason being that when you strum, your fingers are going to hit the outside two strings with a little bit more force than the inside two, just because of the way we strum, which is going to give it a brighter sound because you'll hear the highest pitch strings a little bit more than the lowest pitch. This tuning could be really nice if you're playing, say, Roy Smeck 1930s style picked ukulele, because it's nice having that really nice re-entrant high D on the top. Now, the string sets are a little bit more rare with high D for baritone, so you have to do a bit of digging to find them. One of my recommended suppliers is a guy called Ken Middleton, who has a string set called Living Waters. And if you get in touch with him and say you'd like a re-entrant high D baritone set, he can sort that out for you. Finally, there is a third way to tune your baritone ukulele, and that is to tune it G, C, E, A, like a soprano, tenor or concert. Now, the only issue with this tuning is it will take a specialist string set. Because the baritone is a longer scale, to get that higher pitch tuning, you need some very thick strings to make it work. And there are some specialist string producers that will produce them. I know that Aquila, who produce a lot of strings, do a set, for example. The benefits of GCEA tuning on the baritone mean that you can use all of the same chord shapes and tablature as any standard ukulele. So if you're going to a ukulele group, you could join in with the teaching straight away. The negatives, if you like, is that you lose that deep, low, rich voice of the baritone, which in my opinion is what makes the baritone so wonderful. If you are going for GCEA tuning though, you will not need this course at all. Just go and visit one of my standard ukulele tuning courses and you'll be able to take part there from the start through the whole series. The reasons I wanted to have a look at this tuning and just talk through a couple of points is that for beginners, they can often fall into a bit of a pitfall with the baritone ukulele. Most modern ukulele tuners, if you've searched for a ukulele tuner rather than a guitar tuner, will default to standard ukulele tuning. So when you put your tuner on and you start to tune, it's going to get very confused because it's going to try and tune to G, C, E, A. And most tuners will have a button that you can press, one of various buttons, often the mode button, and you can change the mode from ukulele to, say, bass, guitar, violin, whatever it comes up with. Now, the two settings that you want to use on your tuner for baritone ukulele are either C for chromatic, which will just tune to the nearest note, or G for guitar. And you might think, why guitar tuning? That's strange. Well, if you play a low D baritone, the standard tuning, the four strings of the baritone are exactly the same tuning as the four strings nearest the floor on a guitar, or the highest four pitched strings on guitar. D, G, B and E. So if you put your tuner on guitar setting, just tune to D for the string nearest your nose, G, B and then E. That's the easiest way to do it. If you have it in chromatic tuning, play a string and then you will just tune upwards if the note is too flat or downwards if it's too sharp until you get to a D for this string, G for the next, B for the next and E for the next. So don't fall into that pitfall. Make sure you don't have your tuner on ukulele setting. Now you've tuned your baritone ukulele, let's have a look at how to hold it. And this is crucially important, and I really want you to pay attention to this if you can, even if you've played baritone ukulele a little while. The temptation, because it's a larger bodied instrument, is to allow the waist of your baritone to sit on one of your knees, either the left or the right. Kind of like you would hold an acoustic guitar if you're playing rock style. Now this creates several problems. The first is that your arm position is down here, which creates an unnatural bend in your wrist, which isn't comfortable and isn't very good for you, particularly if you struggle with carpal tunnel or arthritis. And we want that good form right from the start, even if you don't, right? And a particular example is if you're doing some kind of difficult bar chords, it's really uncomfortable to create a bar chord down here with your arm way down here and having to stretch over. Now, if I take my ukulele and rest the lower bout of it on the inside part of my lap. Now it still looks quite kind of cumbersome because it's a large instrument, but remember classical guitarists do this with much bigger instruments. That's beautiful now, because if I go to make a bar chord, I can hold my hand in a with a straight wrist in a really natural position, which is lovely. Also, when I'm barring, I don't have to bring my arm in like this in an unnatural position to bar, because quite naturally my arm will fit in the right place. And by just using the inner part of the belt on the inner part of my leg, it's not going to slip away. If I have it here, it's going to slip away, but on the inner part, it's going to sit lovely. The other thing is, of course, when I look up here, I can see exactly what I'm doing, which is absolutely fantastic as well. So try not to drop him down, up in your lap at a 45-degree angle. And as we talk further, you'll see that that 45 is going to be really important in many other aspects too. And don't listen to the ukulele meanies if they tell you you're not allowed to use a strap. If you find using a strap and attaching it this end or here makes you feel more comfortable with your ukulele, absolutely fine. Just even with a strap, try not to sit it here. Try and keep that 45-degree angle. That's going to be really important. And another thing in terms of the tone production rather than the comfort, try to not cuddle your baritone too much. It's tempting, we all love our ukuleles, right? I do. And the temptation is to really cuddle it in next to your tummy. And the trouble is, if you do that, it's going to quieten the volume. And also, it's going to hold back some of the tone. If we have it slightly away, I'm not talking far, and I've got a bit of a belly, so you know mine sticks out a little bit. Not out here or anything, but as long as it's not tight in here, you'll allow the ukulele to breathe and you'll achieve a nicer tone. Now remember I mentioned that 45-degree angle being really important. We're creating yet another 45-degree angle when we strum, and that's important as well. Now when we strum a baritone ukulele, and I'm going to go into this in a lot more detail in a separate video, but because the string tension is quite low, if we hold it this way horizontal and we really bang the strings, it can sound really ugly and brash because the strings are going to vibrate all over the place. Now, one neat trick to kind of help compensate for that is by holding the uke at 45-degree angle. Look at my arm position. It naturally falls roughly where the body of the ukulele meets the neck, which is the sweet spot for tone production. It also means that when my nail of my index finger comes down in a strum, it's actually hitting the ukulele at a slight angle. It's not straight down like that. It's hitting at a 45-degree angle. That also softens the string noise so you don't get this kind of overwhelming vibration from the D and the G strings. So another thing to bear in mind. Now in terms of your strumming arm, you want to rest it roughly on the up about here. Try not to touch too much of the soundboard because just like cuddling this way it's going to dampen it slightly, but it is absolutely fine to rest slightly on the up about here, and you might find your ukulele will develop a little bit of shine here because of that over the time. Now, next important thing is to have a slight angle on your arm with your wrist. So you don't want to be dead flat against the uke like this. A slight angle, which will allow you to hit the strings without muffling them this end. That's going to be super, super important. One last little thing, and then we'll finish the video by doing a little playing to get you warmed up today. A lot of teachers neglect to mention what to do with this index finger when strumming. We're going to go into lots of different strumming methods in a lot of detail later on, but we're just going to do a simple up and down strum for now. The important thing is when you hit the strings, not to use the side of your index finger this way, because that's going to either hit the wood of the fretboard or the strings really uncomfortable, and there's no way it can bend. There's no give in that finger. You also don't want to be at this angle where your finger's going up and down like this, because that's going to be too floppy and that's going to be all over the place. So 45-degree angle, yet again, is going to soften your strum attack on the strings. Let's just play a G chord. A G chord on baritone, if you're coming from tenor or consort or soprano, that's like a C chord, okay? So the 3rd fret of your E string, the one nearest the floor. Let's take this index finger and rather than having it straight and tight, just relax it so that it forms a slight crook. And we're going to strum down 4 times over those strings in the sweet spot where the body meets the neck. If you find it helps, you can put a little bit of support on the back of that finger, but don't press hard, keep it nice and light. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Lovely, not brash, really sweet and lovely. Let's try strumming up and down now. Now, when you strum up on your baritone uke, as with any uke, don't try and hit all 4 strings. Just allow the pad of your index finger to lightly stroke the bottom few strings nearest the floor. What I mean is we don't need to do this, which is going to sound really messy, particularly on baritone. We're going to come down with most of the force on the down strum, covering all 4 strings, and then a very light touch on the way up. It might only touch the bottom couple of strings, and we're going to use the pad of the index finger on the way up. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Fantastic. You're strumming your baritone uke. You've got the right angle. You've learned how to tune it. We're ready to go, aren't we, folks? Yeah. Now, I think it's really nice to play something on our first lesson, isn't it? So we're going to do a very simple song. We're going to do 12-bar blues in the key of G, and it only has 3 chords in it. I don't want to go into a lot of detail with your chording hand for today. That's going to come in a separate video. I don't want to explain chords and tunings and all that stuff. Just want to get you playing using these techniques that you've learned today in terms of the angle, just so that you can test it out. So we're going to play a simple song. I'm going to put the chords on the screen. Really, really simple. We're going to start with a G chord, which is the 3rd fret of the E string, the one nearest the floor. Then we're going to go to a C chord. That's like an F if you're used to tenor. Okay, that's 2, 0, 1, 0 from nose to toes. Try and keep that thumb on the back, nice circle there. Try not to flatten or have your thumb over the top. Again, a lot more detail with this hand later on in the course. And then the final chord we're going to use is D7. We're just going to keep that index finger where it is, pivot on these 2 down. We have this lovely chord 0, 2, 1, 2. Okay. See if you can follow it with me with that nice simple down and up strum, starting with a G chord. We're going to play that C chords, back to G, D7, C, and we're back to G. Keep that going round, just experiment. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time. Well, you ain't never caught a rabbit and you ain't no friend of mine. When they said you was high class, well, that was just a lie. Well, they said you was a high class, well, that was just a lie. Well, you ain't never caught a rabbit and you ain't no friend of mine. Well done, everyone. Fantastic. So hurrah, we've started our baritone ukulele journey. Super, super exciting. If you're a beginner and that quick song went way too fast and you thought, what? I haven't even learned these chord shapes. Don't worry, we're going to go into a lot more detail with this hand later on in the course. I just wanted to give you a quick example to get you warmed up and strumming and practicing this angle, which is super important. If you've been playing a little while and you're itching to get onto more complicated stuff, such as chord melody, it's all to come, don't worry. Remember, if you're a subscriber and you've got any questions, whatever, just email me on my priority email address and I'll get back to you right away. So if you have any questions with baritone ukulele choices or strings, just give me a shout and I'll do my best to help you. In the meantime, I will see you in the next video. Baritone on, everyone. Take care.